Hey everybody, welcome into another season of DFS. This is the Adjusted Line Play Report presented by Zilla Fantasy Elite. I am your host, Todd Hoffman. Today's show is powered by Rain Total Body Fuel. Right there. When you need that edge in DFS, tune in to the Adjusted Line Play Report from Zilla Fantasy Elite. Follow Todd Hoffman while he delivers the most accurate DFS advice in the industry and make it rain. There we go, folks. Today's flavor for week 2 is white gummy bear. Let's give this bad boy a crack. I think that maxed out my mic. Oh, that is delicious, folks. Make it rain with Rain Total Body Fuel. Gain that edge in DFS. Right there, little product placement. I'm just kidding, folks. I am not sponsored by Rain, but I should be. I mean, this is very accurate information, and I just wanted to welcome you guys into another season of DFS with the Adjusted Line Play Report. Super successful last year, and it's half a year that it was implemented, and we're going to keep the ball rolling here. So thanks for tuning in. I don't need the Rain legal department after me, but if anybody knows anyone within the Rain system who is in their marketing and wants to get a hold of me, I will sponsor them because I stand by this product. Absolutely love Rain. Anyway, guys, that's not why you tuned in here. Let's get into some DFS. For those of you who are new, you'll see what I see over here, which is my little program that I use that takes the offensive and defensive lines for each team according to how well they play. These are the Football Outsider stats for offensive run blocking and pass blocking, and then the defensive pass rush and how good they are against the run. And a little program that I put together. So I click a button and it spits out all of these matchups where it pits the offensive pass protection against the defensive pass rush and so on. So that's kind of how that works. The way I'm going to go through this, I'm just going to go from the highest Vegas total at the time that I do the recording. Right now it's actually Saturday, 6 p.m. Central Time, so it's a little bit late, but we get all the latest injury news when it comes out this late anyhow. So I'm going to just go from the highest Vegas total down to the lowest. So let's get underway. Actually, the top 4 games here are all the late games. So number 1 on the slate is Dallas at the Chargers. Let's go down there. Let's center that up for you guys. Dallas at Los Angeles Chargers. We have a 55-point over-under for this game. Chargers favored by 3 at home there, so they expect it to be close. This is probably the most popular play in all of DFS this week. But just to let you know, this is a very strange week, as there's 4 games actually with a 51 point or more total in this week, and a few others that are 48, 49 and a half. So it's going to be a monster week. It just feels like one of those weeks where if you're playing a cash game and you hit like 165 on FanDuel, you might not even be at the money line. So just be aware that this week there is a lot of good plays in general, and this Adjusted Line Play Report is just going to be another tool that you guys can use to make a little bit better decisions, and it's just another tool in your little toolkit for DFS. So let's start with that Dallas and Chargers game. 55-point over under. Let's start with Dallas here and look at what they have. So we're 4th here in offensive pass protection against Los Angeles Chargers, 22nd ranked pass rush defense according to how Football Outsiders did this. We have 4 pass protection against number 22 pass rush. That's a green-red matchup. We expect Dallas to be able to, based off of these rankings, hold their own against the Chargers defense and give Dak a lot of time. And if you just look at the run blocking, that's number 20 versus number 20. That's kind of a wash. There's no advantage there based off of this. So what this is telling me is Dallas is just going to move the ball through the air. They're going to have a bunch of time and they won't necessarily struggle at the run. It's just kind of a wash there. So they're going to move the ball more efficiently through the air. Dak's probably going to have a monster game. This is obviously a huge game total. So getting that Dallas pass attack. So you're looking at them moving the ball through the air, which is Dak. Obviously, Amari Cooper's in play. CeeDee Lamb's in play. These guys are going to be super popular. So if you're running a cash game lineup, perfectly fine to eat some chalk with those guys. They're probably going to light it up. If you're doing a tournament, you want to keep the rostership percentage a lot lower. So these guys are going to be super popular. If you're looking at winning a GPP, you're going to have to get different elsewhere if you're stacking this Dallas Chargers game. Fortunately, there is a lot of other high-scoring matchups that you can get different this week. Either way, just know that they're going to be super popular. Cooper, Lamb, a way to get different on this for me personally, I like Cedric Wilson this week. He's probably going to come in lower rostership percentage than a lot of people are expecting. As Gallup went out, Cedric Wilson's going to take over that number 3 role, and he could very well. The Chargers have some pretty decent pieces there on defense, so it's surprising to see that they're 22nd in pass rush. But as this adjusted line play report goes through the year more, it just gets more and more accurate because you get more and more data put in to say, yep, these guys were good, they faced somebody poor, and then it just kind of goes on from there. So it gets more accurate as the time goes on after week 1. Week 2 is probably the least accurate, but based off of this, Cedric Wilson could be a good way to get different in this high-scoring game. And then Dalton Schultz there at tight end. He did get a lot more work in the pass game over Blake Jarwin. So those two are probably a little bit different compared to what the field's going to be doing. CeeDee Lamb probably going to be the highest rostered player out of the Dallas thing. Cooper's pretty highly priced, so keep those things in mind when you're doing it. And then on to the Chargers game. They're fine on the ground or the air if you look at it. Their run blocking offense is 14th, nothing to write home about, so it's middle of the pack. But Dallas's adjusted line yards on defense against the run is 24th, so they're in the red there. They're in the bottom 10 teams. Chargers kind of middle of the road. They should be able to be just fine moving the ball on the ground or through the air. We do see, though, through the air, they're 9th in offensive pass protection. So they're top 10. That's a green matchup against a red defensive pass rush. Dallas actually 31st in the pass rush, so they won't be getting after Herbert whatsoever. Herbert should have plenty of time back there to pick apart Dallas's defense. With that being said, and the fact that they're okay running the ball as well, I think Austin Eckler is a good way to get different as well in here. I think Herbert is probably going to be the highest rostered quarterback or the most stacked quarterback here against Dallas's defense, just because they got smoked last week by Tampa Bay in front of the entire national TV audience. So Herbert's going to be super popular, but obviously for good reason. Him paired with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams is obviously no-brainer success to an extent. The place where I would get different is you could bring in the tight end there, so Herbert and maybe double stacking with Keenan Allen and Cook there at tight end. Or my favorite play, actually, he burned a lot of people last year, but he had monster potential, a lot of air yards, just very inefficient at catching anything that came his way, is Jaylen Guyton. He is the third wide receiver there. Their third-round pick, Josh Palmer, didn't play a whole lot, so I like that as a way to get different. You could even do, if you want to get super crazy and kind of galaxy brain it, is a Herbert, Guyton, and Cook stack. There was a lot of times last year where Herbert just, it didn't matter if it was Keenan Allen and Mike Williams out there. The touchdowns went to Guyton and other guys. So it's like, why are these? He threw 4 touchdowns, but only one of them went to either Keenan Allen or Mike Williams. The other ones all went to these scrub no-namers. So that's a way that you could get different from the field, even while attacking that same game. So just keep those guys in mind. And Austin Eckler's obviously in play here as well. Now on to the number 2 game. We have Tennessee at Seattle, which is right above here. As I said before, these are all the late games. So all the afternoon games are the top 4 highest Vegas totals on the slate. We have Tennessee at Seattle. Seattle's actually the second highest team implied total on the week here. As you can see, they are at 30.25. That's a 54-point over-under. Seattle is favored by 6.5 over Tennessee. Seattle should be better on the ground, actually. If you look at this, their run-blocking offense is second. And Tennessee's adjusted line yards against the rush is 23rd. So that's a red-green matchup. Seattle number 2, Tennessee 23. I expect Seattle to be able to move the ball easy through the air or on the ground against Tennessee. They were beatable that same way last year. It doesn't seem like anything has changed. So keep an eye on Chris Carson in the run game there. He could be a sneaky play, both in cash and GPP. We've seen him score plenty of times through the air. Little cough, little dry tickle in the throat. Make it rain, boys and ladies and gentlemen, make it rain. How about that? Oh, that's so good. The crowd goes wild. It's so good. All right, guys. Let's get back into it. Tennessee at Seattle. I just talked about Chris Carson, so Seattle should be better on the ground. But Russ might not have as much time as you would hoped for in this game. Tennessee, their defense hasn't always been super good lately, but we see a 28 on the offensive pass protection for Seattle. That's pretty poor. Tennessee at 12th. They're not a top 10 team, but they're getting close to there. They're at the top end of those mid-range guys. They could be getting after Seattle here, flushing Wilson out of the pocket possibly, which could lead to some broken play, deep plays, which he is very good at. But just know that he could be under some pressure here, so there might be a few more underneath looks, which probably favors Lockett. I believe last year he was running more of the shorter intermediate routes, and DK Metcalf was running a lot of the intermediate and deeper routes. So keep an eye on that. It is going to be super chalky as well. Seattle at Tennessee. Russ stacked with DK Metcalf and Lockett, or a combination of one of those two. Another way, especially if he's going to be under pressure and needing to get the ball out quick, is Gerald Everett. Granted, Will Disley, I think, was in on more snaps and ran more routes than Gerald Everett. Gerald Everett is a hyper-athletic tight end. I could see him getting open fairly easy against this Tennessee secondary, and then him just being open and Russ targeting him if he's under pressure and can't escape it. So keep an eye on that. It's just a different thing. I know a lot of people are attacking the pass attack and both of these sides just because they think that's how it's going to go. The adjusted line play report, again, another tool in your toolbox. It's saying he might not have a lot of time and might be more underneath routes thrown in this game. So keep an eye also on Carson getting a few more pass attempts under that same premise. Then we take a peek at Tennessee. They have a 23.75 implied team total there. And the pass protection is bad for Tennessee. We look at the pass protection 31st. Seattle actually 8th against for the adjusted pass rush on the defensive side. So Tannehill likely to be under duress in this game. He could flush out and get a few more rushing yards in this game, but also probably keep it underneath a little bit more. So keep an eye on Julio and A.J. Brown. I'm not sure. I didn't look at the routes that they ran in week 1, who was kind of running more underneath routes between the two, but they both are certainly capable of doing that. And then Ferkser, the tight end there, if you're completely punting tight end and want to throw a dart at somebody that might get 6 or 7 targets because the quarterback's under pressure, Ferkser might be one of those guys. Maybe he gets lucky in a shootout to get a touchdown or two, and he could win you some money there. Otherwise, that's kind of it for the Tennessee-Seattle game there. Derrick Henry is probably not somebody I'm looking at incredibly on this slate. They're 27th in offensive run blocking, so you can see that line just took a dump between last year and this year. We'll see if that changes throughout the next few weeks, but I wouldn't expect a ton from Derrick Henry. He's a guy that I'm going to fade more than normal this week, more than you normally would. The next on the slate, so number 3 is Atlanta at Tampa Bay, which is up here, game 11 on here. We have a 51.5 point over-under, and Tampa Bay favored by 12.5, so they should smoke Atlanta by quite a bit. They are the highest team total on the slate at 32. And let's go over Atlanta first, though. They have bad pass protection, but look at the Bucks. So we have bad pass protection. The Bucks are also at 29 against the pass rush. Doesn't really make sense. You think about the Tampa Bay defense being super good, but they're actually a lot better against the run than they were at generating pressure on the quarterback. And the same went for last year. It was the same thing, and I know they retained a lot of their staff, so it seems like it's more of the same this year. They're surprisingly not generating a lot of pressure on the quarterback, which is obviously good because Atlanta's used to being bombarded and having a poor offensive line around Matt Ryan. So he should have a little bit more time than he's used to, considering Tampa Bay's pass rush isn't that good, which will lead to more fantasy points, right? So that's pretty good. And let's look at the run blocking also for Atlanta. It's actually 7th, which is super good. Although I don't know if I want Mike Davis. Tampa Bay is only 13th in the adjusted line yards, so that's almost a wash there. But we know Tampa Bay's run defense is very good. Again, these things are based off of film gradings and stuff. So Tampa Bay being at 13, this could easily change and whatnot going into the next few weeks. I wouldn't expect Atlanta to be running the ball all that much, even though they did run more than you would have liked last week. So keep that in mind. That's just not something I want to attack. So if I'm going to be doing anything on the Atlanta side, it's probably not Matt Ryan, but getting a piece of his receiving core, either Pitts or Calvin Ridley, into a lineup, maybe as a one-off. I'm not necessarily going to stack Matt Ryan in this game. This pass catchers, another sneaky one if you need to get, especially on DraftKings where you're getting a full PPR and some bonuses there. Brussel Gage, I think, has some sneaky upside in here. He did do well against Tampa Bay last year. At the end of last year, he was pretty hot down the stretch. And I could see him garnering 7 to 9 targets in this game and doing some damage with it, because Tampa Bay did get kind of torched by Dallas there. I know it's not the same offense, so just keep that in mind. Those are the guys I'm kind of looking at. Mike Davis, I would probably fade, even though the adjusted line play report is suggesting he could be surprisingly good. Let's move on to that Tampa Bay game. Lots of time. That's what I have written down here. Pass protection, 2nd overall. Atlanta, 26th at generating any pressure against the quarterback. So that's muy bueno for the Tampa Bay pass attack. We probably want lots of pieces of this throughout all of our squads that we're submitting this week. Tom Brady is in play, even though he's a statue. I could see him easily having 4 or 5 touchdowns this week. Obviously, the pass catchers there, we have Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Antonio Brown, and Gronk. Those would be the people that I'm going after. Some combination of 2 of those pass catchers. If I'm running Brady in my quarterback slot, I'm going to have 2 of his pass catchers in there. And probably going off of the ownership, or excuse me, the rostership percentage there. Godwin's the most expensive of these guys, and Evans is dropped down quite a bit on FanDuel. And he could easily have 2 touchdowns in this game against Atlanta, so keep an eye out for that. I think Evans might be fairly low rostered in this week, and he's going to be in a great game environment where he could score a few touchdowns. Also in the running game, it should be solid for Tampa Bay. They're 9th in offensive run blocking. Atlanta's on the bottom end of the middle of the pack there, or I guess in the middle of the pack there at 17. So Fournette possibly. I don't believe Rojo is going to get a lot of work there, and I think Tampa Bay is going to be up and not need to pass all that often. So Fournette having a couple of plunges into the end zone is totally doable. Same with Tom Brady. If they're on the 1-yard line, he could sneak it in, and that's a way that he could get a rushing touchdown that you're not really expecting. So keep that game in mind. Sorry about the coughs. Number 4 on the slate here, Minnesota at Arizona, 51-point total there from Vegas. Arizona's actually favored by just 3.5 in this game at home, despite Minnesota losing to Cincinnati last week. So kind of interesting there that Vegas doesn't really believe in Arizona, even though they shredded up Tennessee last week. What I have down on here is Minnesota's just got a bad offensive line. They're 16 in offensive pass protection, so smack dab in the middle, but 28th in run blocking. But we see Arizona's defense there in the middle, number 2 and number 6. So number 2 in the pass rush. They should generate a lot of pressure against Minnesota's pass protection there. And honestly, both Arizona and Minnesota are the two defenses that I'm interested in playing this week. So I have a lot of them kind of in the back of my mind when I'm making these lineups. So just keep that in mind. But yes, Minnesota's run blocking is actually 28th after the first week here. Arizona, number 6 in the adjusted line yards defense, which is the run defense there. So I don't expect Minnesota to be super great at running the ball against Arizona based off of this. I know a lot of people are saying Delvin Cook is kind of one of those sneaky GPP plays, but the guy is talented. It's just not looking super good on the adjusted line play report, so I wouldn't expect Delvin Cook necessarily to smash. If he does, it's going to be in spite of what the adjusted line play report is saying. It happens from time to time, and Delvin Cook definitely has the talent to do it, but it's not somebody that I'm going to be smashing into a lot of my lineups. I could easily see this game actually getting the under, honestly, based off of this, but there's not just a lot of things from Minnesota that I want in this game. I expect Cousins to be under pressure, a little bit shorter passes, and that could actually lead to Cook getting a few more passes, which is where he would kind of make up those fantasy points, especially on a place like DraftKings that awards a point per reception and gives you the yardage bonus at 100 receiving and rushing. So just keep that in mind. Otherwise, the pass catchers are kind of catching those shorter routes, either Thielen or Jefferson. I just expect Cousins to kind of be under duress and them not be able to move the ball very well. On the other side, Arizona, the run game, it looks very juicy. Top 10 in offensive run blocking. Minnesota's rush defense is number 25, so that's a red-green matchup there. I really like Chase Edmonds in this game. I do think it's going to hit the under, but obviously Vegas is giving it a 51 point total, and that could mean lots of points. And let's say Minnesota can keep pace with them because they're expecting it to be a close game. Edmonds could easily get 4 to 6 receptions in this game as they're kind of going back and forth. So I really like Chase Edmonds. He's cheap on both DraftKings and FanDuel, so I like him this week. Murray could be under duress if you look at that. Their pass protection offense is 21st, and Arizona we saw second in the pass rush defense. Actually, Minnesota is the team that's better than them. Defensive pass rush is number 1 from Minnesota, so expect them to be getting after Kyler Murray, which could flush him out of the pocket. I expect him to have shorter throws, so watch out for Rondale Moore in this game. He's definitely an underneath specialist. Minnesota is missing some decent people there in the mid part of their defense, so Rondale Moore could showcase his elite athleticism in this game. So watch out for Rondale Moore, and obviously Hopkins runs awesome routes and gets open at will, so I expect those two to be the options that you're going to want in the pass game. Kyler obviously has a high ceiling. I just don't know in this game. He could have quite a few rush attempts if Minnesota is pressuring him out of the pocket, and he could just rack up 10, 11 rush attempts here as well. So keep that in mind on this particular game. I think I went over everything besides their Arizona defense, so you could put them in as well. So that's the top 4 that are all over 50. Now we have a few more here that are like the upper 40s, 48, 48, 49. So 49.5. So the number 5 highest one on the slate is San Francisco at Philadelphia. 49.5 point over under there. San Francisco is actually 3-point road favorites in this game. If we take a peek at San Francisco, we see 26 in offensive pass protection versus Philly's number 4 pass rush. Philly's going to be getting after the quarterback. Expect Philadelphia's defense to possibly be sneaky here as they could generate quite a few sacks. That's only if San Francisco's passing, though, which I don't think will be happening. because their run blocking is number 4, while Philadelphia's adjusted line yards against the run is 26. So I expect San Francisco to be able to rush all over Philadelphia, just kind of like they do everyone. And obviously that's going to be the waiver wire darling Elijah Mitchell and Trey Sermon. So flip a coin. I know a lot of people are high on Elijah Mitchell and you think he's going to retain the job, but I'm not entirely sure if that's going to be the case. San Francisco does rotate a lot of people, and if there's a hot hand, perhaps that's Trey Sermon, and Trey Sermon might eat into a lot of that. Trey Sermon might even start here as the main power back, but we'll see what happens there. Elijah Mitchell and Trey Sermon, though, if they're getting the rock, should be pretty good against this Philadelphia defense. So keep that in mind. Otherwise, with that bad pass protection and Philly's good pass rush, the shorter routes for San Francisco, so that's Kittle, that's Deebo Samuel. Those would be the guys that I'm trying to get in from this game and the pass game if you're going to be going that route. So Philadelphia, the pass protection, is pretty solid there. So we look number 7 against San Francisco is actually only 21 in the pass rush. So they're pretty low. They're not quite in the red, but they're pretty close. And Philadelphia is number 7 on the offensive pass protection. So Jalen Hurts could see another strong game here, and we could actually see a pretty solid showcasing on his passing skills here, especially if he doesn't have to get out of the pocket and scramble, which might limit his upside with the rushing numbers, but he's obviously got arm talent. He's got a few 300-yard games already under his belt in the few short starts that he's had. So we're looking at Devonta Smith, maybe Quez Watkins, especially if he's got time back there. Quez Watkins could take the top off the defense, get a long ball. Same with Reagor. Reagor's got some solid speed. Either of those two could take one to the house for 70 or 80 yards in this particular matchup if they get open deep. We don't really have 40 speed numbers on Devonta Smith, but he also seemed like he's pretty quick. He is the number 1 option there in the pass game, though. San Francisco is also pretty poor against the tight ends, or at least they have been. So that could be wheels up for Goddard here, especially if he's got a little bit more time to run some longer routes. So keep that in mind too. The run blocking is kind of a wash there, so 16 versus 15. I wouldn't expect Miles Sanders to be doing a whole lot in this particular matchup. It's kind of a wash for the pass or the run blocking for them. Let's look at number 6 on the slate. Tie for 6 actually is LA at Indy and Houston at Cleveland. Let's do the LA at Indy game first, which I believe is down here. Game 7, Rams at Indianapolis. This is a dome game, folks. 48-point total for the over-under from Vegas. Los Angeles Rams are actually 3.5-point road favorites going into this. What I have down for the notes, Los Angeles Rams run game. Let's look at that. Number 10 in offensive run blocking, Indianapolis, 31st against the run. Holy smokes, this could be wheels up for Henderson and Michelle both. Look for the Rams to be able to move the ball actually on the ground. And I think McVay doesn't mind pounding the rock like that, especially if they're going to be ahead in this game. I could see quite a few rush attempts, more than what people are expecting. I think a lot of people are expecting the Rams to be able to air it out and just crush everyone through the air, but it seems like their run blocking is very good. Indy's against the run is poor, so keep an eye out for that. Rams do have good pass protection, but Indianapolis is number 5 in the pass rush defense, so the Rams might not have as much time as they're used to, which probably favors Cooper Kupp. He runs the more underneath routes, as well as Tyler Higbee. So if you're going to grab any of those pass game folks from the Rams, I would do Cooper Kupp and I would do Higbee. They do have a pretty solid 48 points there, so touchdowns either from Higbee or Kupp could be likely, but I'm probably attacking the run game if I'm grabbing any pieces from here. Henderson, Michelle, they're going to be very low rostered and could be a way to get different in some of these tournaments. Let's go on to the Indianapolis here. We have bad pass protection from them. Number 25 against the 9th ranked pass rush defense. So expect Carson Wentz to be under pressure again and probably looking quite bad. The Rams could have a pretty solid game on defense there against Indianapolis. The run blocking for Indy, number 19 versus the Rams, 21. It's kind of a wash. Jonathan Taylor did have 6 targets, I believe, in week 1. So if he's going to be under pressure, Nyheim Hines and Taylor are actually probably the best plays that you could get. He targeted them quite a bit in week 1. He probably will be targeting them quite a bit in week 2. If the Rams are getting him instantly, I'd expect the tight ends maybe to be stuck in to block a little bit more, and then targeting the running backs and Pascal probably on these underneath routes. Would be what I would expect from Indianapolis. Anyway, that's something that I'm probably avoiding this week, unless you want to get a little bit different in some of these tournaments with Jonathan Taylor, run it back with Cooper Kupp, something like that. That might not be a bad idea. So let's go to the other 48 over-under game, which is Houston at Cleveland. Probably not grabbing any pieces from Houston on this. But Cleveland are 13-point favorites in this. And the Houston's pass protection, if we look at it, it's actually 8th. Cleveland kind of middle of the road for the generating pressure on the quarterback. So that's kind of aligns with the game script here, with Cleveland being 13-point favorites. They should be up, which means Houston's going to be passing a lot. So if their pass protection is actually not that bad, you could possibly run out one of their pass game options. Cook's definitely capable of getting open. He already had 134 yards in week 1. Nico Collins looked like the second best option there in Houston's pass game. So those would be the 2 that I'm looking for from Houston. And that's probably it from that particular team, unless you think David Johnson's just going to get a few dump-offs or be running routes out there. It looked like Ingram was running a bunch of routes as well for Houston in week 1. So kind of interesting to see that, but I don't expect them to be running the ball a whole lot. I expect them to be down a bunch, and it looks like Cleveland's pretty stout against the run at number 9, and Houston's just kind of middle of the pack there for run block. On the offense, but the Cleveland side, what can you say? Number 1 in offensive run blocking versus Houston's horrendous rush defense. We saw them get eaten alive last year. Pretty much the same thing this year. They're 30th. They were never better than 30th, I think, last year. And against the rush, they were always bottom 3 there. So expect Cleveland just to dominate here. I do have quite a bit of Chubb in my early lineups that I put in there. Kareem Hunt probably also in play. It seems like he's the one that ends up running out the clock in the final quarter and a half whenever Cleveland's up huge. So keep an eye out for that. If Houston's going to have such a horrendous defense, you can see they're 30th actually, both in the pass rush and the adjusted line yards. So Cleveland might have more time in the pass game as well, but I expect them to be smashing the ball down Houston's throat, and they do have a 30-point implied total there from Vegas, which is second or third, tied for second or third on the slate here. So expect Cleveland to put up a lot of points. I expect it to be mostly Chubb and mostly Kareem Hunt, so keep that in mind. On to the next one. Let's also say that Cleveland could be a solid defense there if Houston's going to have to pass a lot. I know they're not super great at the pass rush there, but it could lead to some opportunities for turnovers and sacks. So, number 8 on the slate is Buffalo at Miami. Where are they here? We have a 47.5-point Vegas total there. Buffalo 3.5-point road favorites. Looks like Buffalo's going to have to move through the air. So if we look at it, their offensive run blocking is 21st. Miami's is 18th against the run. That's kind of a wash. Buffalo doesn't like to run the ball that much anyway, so I expect them to pass a bunch. They have 19th offensive pass protection. Not that good. Middle of the road, a little bit below average. But Miami's pass rush is 28th. So expect Buffalo to have a little bit more time here. They did start 5 wide to start week 1, so just keep that in mind. That was against Pittsburgh, so they're coming out against Miami. They do like to throw the ball a ton. Obviously, they came out 5 wide, and I believe Beasley and Sanders and Diggs all had over 90% snap rate, so they're running 3 wide pretty much all the time out there. The pass attack, if you're going to grab, if you're going to try to stack that, I wouldn't necessarily. I think there's a lot better options in the pass to stack this week versus Josh Allen's stacks here. But if you're going to get a piece from this, you're looking at Stephon Diggs probably being all right. Emmanuel Sanders and Beasley are the ones that I would tell you to focus on if you're trying to find a cheap option in DraftKings, especially for PPR. They did get targeted quite a bit, and they could easily garner lots of targets in this if Buffalo's getting a little bit more time. They just get a little bit more time to get open, and that favors Diggs. He's open all the time, and Sanders and Beasley are also solid route runners. So just keep that stuff in mind. Dart throw as well as Gabe Davis or Dawson Knox if you think he's going to get one in the end zone. He was 4 for 4 last week for 40 yards. So he had a pretty solid week 1. On Miami's end, they won't be able to run the ball. They're 23rd in run blocking offense, and Buffalo is actually number 1 against the run. They did stuff Pittsburgh and Najee Harris last week, so keep that in mind. The bad pass protection as well, so they're 22nd and Buffalo's 13th. That's kind of somewhat of a mismatch there. Buffalo's probably going to be generating quite a bit of pressure on Tua. Just keep that in mind. That could lead to some sacks and some turnovers. Buffalo maybe a sneaky defense there against Miami. But that also means quicker passes for Miami, so the shorter underneath routes. You could be looking at Gaskins maybe getting some targets there, but probably Waddle and the tight ends would be the people that I'm targeting from Miami for this game. Mike Gesicki or Durham Smythe. It's just I'm probably not going to have a lot of Miami in my lineups. If I do, it's going to be Waddle. Just keep in mind that Will Fuller did come off his suspension, but he is out for personal leave, so he won't be in this game, and that'll be interesting anyway. So that's the Buffalo-Miami game. The next one is Las Vegas at Pittsburgh. I believe that's number 2 on here. So we have a 47-point over-under from Vegas. Pittsburgh 6-point favorites. Starting on the Vegas side, they have bad run blocking. Just looking at it, 29th, Pittsburgh 12th. Don't expect Vegas to run the ball a whole lot in this game. Kenyon Drake's going to be the main dude there. Josh Jacobs is out with a toe injury, so don't expect them to run. Their pass protection is 15th, Pittsburgh 14th. That's kind of a wash. And I found out throughout the year last year when there was no significant matchup differences that favored one thing or the other. So this is favoring Las Vegas, passing it more than running it, just because it's going to be easier, more efficient for them to do it according to this. But when it's a wash, it's kind of pick the players that you normally would from that team that are fantasy producers. So this is going to be Darren Waller, and then either Bryan Edwards or Hunter Renfrow against this Pittsburgh's defense. So those would be the only guys that I'm targeting in that game. Renfrow, if you're looking for a super cheap option on DK, also same with Bryan Edwards, but he could be a little bit more popular, so doing a Hunter Renfrow. But my favorite's probably Waller in this game. Expect him to get tons of targets, and that's just what he does. So on the Pittsburgh side, let's take a peek there. Bad run blocking, 32nd. Holy smokes, Las Vegas actually pretty good against the run. I wondered if they wouldn't be a little bit better against the run this year. They picked up a lot of defensive help in free agency, just big names, but older guys are probably past their prime. Just keep an eye on that. Vegas might not be as easy to run on as we hope. I wouldn't expect Pittsburgh to be able to run the ball very well, but if we look over here, Pittsburgh's pass protection is 20th, and Las Vegas is actually 6th in defensive pass rush. So they're getting after the quarterback, generating quite a bit of pressure, which is going to mean Pittsburgh's going to have to throw the ball quicker, which is going to favor Juju Smith-Schuster, and it's going to favor Deontay Johnson. They're underneath specialists, very excellent route runners, but guess who else is an excellent route runner? Najee Harris. I actually expect him to get quite a bit of work in this game. As I said, Vegas was really bad last year with their run blocking. It seems like they potentially got better, but again, this is week 2. This adjusted line play report fluctuates quite a bit in these first couple of weeks as things kind of more data comes in, and we can see what the truth is with these defenses this week. So keep that in mind. Najee Harris could be a sneaky play. He's really cheap on both sites, but he's especially cheap on FanDuel. So if we expect them to be passing it quite a bit, he might be a sneaky option on DraftKings just to get the full PPR bump. So keep that in mind. It's just an interesting dichotomy there. Pittsburgh, you think, should steamroll Las Vegas, but Vegas seems like they got their number on defense. So it's just an interesting little thing there. And obviously, as we get into these later matchups, these are ones that you're not necessarily looking to stack, but maybe just get a one-off piece to complete your lineup or a skinny stack. So let's say you get Najee Harris at running back, bring it back with Darren Waller, or if you're on DraftKings with Najee Harris getting that PPR bump, maybe bring it back with a Hunter Renfrow just as a skinny stack, and that could be very successful this week. So just keep an eye on that. The next lineup, or the next matchup, tied for 10th on the slate at a 45-point over-under is Denver and Jacksonville, or Denver at Jacksonville, and then Cincinnati at Chicago. So let's first do Denver and Jacksonville. Take a peek at the notes here. Through the air better for Denver, actually. So we look at their pass protection, 13th, kind of middle of the road. And then Jacksonville actually 25th at generating pressure against the quarterback. I would expect Denver to be able to actually have a little bit more time than what they're used to. And with Jerry Jeudy being out, I think Sutton's going to get quite a few targets here. Fant probably turns into the number 2 on this offense as far as target hog. But if he's going to have a little bit more time, KJ Hamler could be one of those guys that just gets another deep bomb. And Teddy throws a pretty solid deep ball. I know he got a lot of crap for being kind of an underneath specialist, but he does throw a pretty accurate and efficient deep ball. When he goes deep with it, it's accurate and it usually is successful. So keep that in mind. Sutton and Hamler would probably be the guys that I'm targeting most as a one-off. I'm not necessarily looking to stack them with Bridgewater. I don't think Bridgewater is going to be that good. Tim Patrick also probably getting a little bump with Jeudy out. He probably takes over that role. I just don't see him having necessarily GPP upside. He could be somebody that's garnering 6-7 targets, but I think Sutton's just going to take that from him. And Sutton and Hamler, I think, are the best options. Sutton especially for cash and GPP, but Hamler more for GPP, not cash. He's more risky. And then potentially Albert Okabunum. He looked pretty good last week. He scored a touchdown. I think he had 3 targets. He's just explosive. I think he actually looks more explosive than even Noah Fant, which is surprising. So keep an eye on him potentially if he balls out with another 4 or 5 targets. He might be somebody that you want to stash in some of your deeper dynasty leagues. Then on the Jacksonville side, their offensive line is actually pretty good. I didn't go into the Denver rushing game. They're 22 on run blocking, 16 for Jacksonville. Not necessarily a wash, but it's not the greatest for Denver. So use caution with both Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon there. So Jacksonville, as I said, pass protection number 3, offensive run blocking number 3. Pretty good. Well, Denver is number 2 against the rush on defense, so that's kind of a wash there. Wouldn't expect Jacksonville to be able to run the ball very well, but if Jacksonville is going to have time to throw it, because Denver is number 19 in pass generating pressure and getting after the quarterback and generating sacks, Jacksonville could have a little bit more time to throw the ball, and that's going to lead to probably a monster game from DJ Chark if they're able to throw quite a bit. Again, these are not games I'm looking to stack, so DJ Chark, Laviska Shenault, Marvin Jones are the 3 wide receivers there in Jacksonville. If I'm going to just pick a one-off, probably going to be more on the Chark range because he had a bunch of targets and just didn't connect last week. He could easily start connecting with some of those and have a monster game. Otherwise, if you're looking to tight end, O'Shaughnessy there from Jacksonville had like the 3rd most routes ran in all of the NFL for the tight end position last week. So take that with caution. If you're punting tight end, he is an option there against Denver. Let's go to that other tied for 10 game at 45, which is the Chicago-Cincinnati game. This is one I could see hitting the over. pretty easily. I don't think Cincinnati's defense is actually that good, but let's go over this. Cincinnati's run blocking, if you see number 8, Chicago adjusted line yards against the rush, 27. That's a red-green matchup or a green-red matchup. I expect Mixon, based off of this, he could have a really, really big game. So he should be able to move the ball on the ground against Chicago, according to this, combined with the fact that Cincinnati's the 32nd ranked pass protection. Woe is me. Cincinnati was 32nd, 31st, 30th, all of last year in pass protection. So more of the same there. Good thing for them is Chicago is not very good at the pass rush, at least according to what we see here. So it's a red-red matchup. Cincinnati should find itself with maybe some okay time to pass the ball, but they're probably going to be moving the ball through the air. And if their pass protection is truly that bad, it's probably going to lead to more shallow routes, which is also going to favor dump-offs to Mixon. So watch out for Mixon being a sneaky GPP play this week. He could be somebody that's winning someone $1 million. The only thing I don't like about this is the 45-point Vegas total. So there's not going to be a lot of people on this game. And if they're going Cincinnati, they're probably attacking the pass attack since they did all right last week. But I like Mixon in this for that particular reason. And then Chicago, they're going to have a little bit less time throwing the ball. So you look at it, their offensive pass protection 24th. Cincinnati wasn't that bad against the Vikings. So I don't expect them to have a ton of time. So it's going to be more underneath routes. Fortunately for Chicago, Allen Robinson basically... Chicago had a weird... I think it was matchup dependent because they were playing the Rams last week, but they only had 3 pass attempts, I believe, over 10 yards last week against the Rams. I do believe that was game plan dependent. Again, go follow me on Twitter. It's at Todzilla1337. That is where you can get a lot of information throughout the week for these DFS things. And I kind of went over their pass plan. And I think it just end result was it was a coaching decision to get the ball out quick. I don't think they're going to have the same game plan against Cincinnati, but regardless, I don't know how much time they're going to have. Allen Robinson definitely ran a lot of short routes last week. Same with Darnell Mooney. Mooney has some take the top off the defense upside, but he also gets a lot of bubble screens, and they just try to get the ball in his hands to make something happen because he has elite speed at the NFL. So keep that in mind. And obviously the short underneath always favors tight ends as well. So Cole Kmet, and if they're going to be passing it to the running backs, it's probably not going to be Montgomery. I believe Damian Williams got a lot of that pass work for Chicago. So keep that in mind. Again, these are lower Vegas totals, games that I'm not necessarily looking to definitely not stack, but maybe I'm just getting one piece to fill out a roster, especially if it's cheap in these final games. So we just have 2 more games left on the slate here. We have number 12 is New Orleans at Carolina. Game number 6 here. They have a 44.5 point over-under from Vegas. New Orleans, 3-point road favorites here. And let's look at New Orleans. They are number 1 in pass protection, number 5 in offensive run blocking. So that's good. Unfortunately for them, Carolina is already number 3 in pass rush against the quarterback and number 3 against the run on defense, which is very surprising. Carolina doesn't seem like they should have that good of a defense, but here we are, adjusted line play report, basically saying this is a wash on the offensive side of the ball for New Orleans. So who's going to benefit on that? According to the adjusted line play report, when it's a wash, just pick the guys that are going to score you the fantasy points that you would expect. That's pretty much just Alvin Kamara from New Orleans. Maybe Troutman if you think he's going to get a bunch more targets. But this is a game that I'm probably not going to be looking to get any or too many pieces from. New Orleans could be sneaky on defense, potentially. Just keep that in mind, but not according to the adjusted line play report. So Carolina, their best thing is actually going to be through the air. They're number 6 in offensive pass protection. The Saints are 15th at generating pressure on the quarterback. So that's kind of a victory for Carolina. You could have a little bit more time to pass the ball. Again, low point total. I wouldn't expect anybody really other than DJ Moore or Christian McCaffrey to be getting a lot of these pass game work. So keep that in mind. Their run blocking is 11th against New Orleans, 7. Again, that's a wash. Favors the point scorers. Carolina, that's pretty much DJ Moore and Christian McCaffrey. I would expect McCaffrey to be gathering most of the fantasy production in this game from the Carolina side. Again, these are the bottom couple games. Not looking to get any or hardly any pieces from this. Last game on the slate is New England versus New York Jets. Putrid 43-point Vegas total. We do have New England as 6-point road favorites in this. Well, New England should be able to move the ball easy. We look at their offensive pass protection. It's a red-green matchup. They're number 5 in the pass protection against the Jets, number 27 on the pass rush, so they don't get after the quarterback. Mac Jones should have plenty of time to throw the ball. I think that's really just going to favor Jacoby Myers. That's basically Mac Jones' favorite target there. So if they're going to move the ball through the air, it's probably going to be Myers and then the 2 tight ends, which I'm not interested in for DFS. And then if you're going to be playing the 15th, basically middle of the pack there, run block against the Jets, number 22 on defense against the run. Damian Harris is an option. Got a lot of run last week. Dead fumble, though, so he could get punished by Bill Belichick. We'll see. But, again, not looking to get a lot of pieces. Jacoby Myers or Damian Harris are the only 2 people from New England that I'm looking to get. And then New York Jets, they're just going to get destroyed. I mean, they're red across the board for offensive and defensive line, which is just sad. Just sad. I don't know what it's like to be a Jets fan. It must suck, but anyway, they're 30th in run blocking. Offense, New England is number 10 in adjusted against, generating pass pressure. So that's a red-green matchup. They should be able to get, against the run. So the Jets won't be able to run the ball against New England. And then we look, they're also 30th in offensive pass protection in New England, just 1 spot worse than they were against the run at number 11 in the pass rush. Pretty big discrepancy there. New England should be able to get after the quarterback. New England defense should be in play here, and I would expect quite a few sacks and turnovers from the rookie quarterback there, Zach Wilson. I don't think he's that good, but yeah, this is just a game I'm avoiding in general. If I'm going to get anything, it's probably Damian Harris or the New England defense, but I'm not paying up for defense most weeks. So, guys, that's going to do it for the Week 2 Adjusted Line Play Report. Just remember, this does get better as the season goes on. A lot of volatility there in the first couple of weeks. It's basically like you have in redraft every year where you figure out what the defenses are actually good or bad. And then by week 5, 6, 7, you got a better idea of who's actually good on defense. So that's kind of the same with this adjusted line play report. As the season goes on, you just get more accurate information, and this becomes a lot better. So week 9 last year, I had a very nice show where, following my advice, you could have won $1 million anyway. This will just get better as the season goes along. This is week 2, though, so we'll see how well it does. It's just kind of, I didn't have this ability yet in week 2, and I just noticed, hey, week 2, 3, that this is actually pretty accurate. So keep that in mind. If you guys want to follow myself on Twitter, I am at Todzilla1337. Again, I'm posting a lot of stuff on there throughout the week. And then if you want to follow Zilla Fantasy Elite, they are on Twitter at Zilla Fantasy. They are on YouTube. Obviously, if you are watching this, it's Zilla Fantasy Elite. So subscribe if you haven't yet. Hit that subscribe button. And then there is a Facebook channel for Zilla Fantasy Elite. I believe just type in Zilla Fantasy Elite on Facebook and go there, and you can follow Zilla Fantasy Elite on Facebook as well. Anyway, guys, that's going to do it for the Week 2 show. Hope you enjoyed it. Obviously, if you did, hit the like button. Leave a comment below, too, if any of this doesn't make sense to you or if you have questions about how this works. Very active on the socials for Zilla Fantasy Elite, so keep that in mind. Again, week 2 powered by Rain. Hashtag actually not a sponsor, but super tasty stuff. Keeps your brain working and alert. Thanks, guys. I hope you enjoyed the show. Have a good one. Let's go out there week 2, win some money together. And I wish you the best of luck. Bye.